Hey there, welcome back to the table. So, as expected, I did make some mistakes with this, so let's jump in right away. And thank you to the viewers. There's several of you who have made some really nice comments. And first of all, thank you for the support. Secondly, thank you for your patience in explaining some things. And there's one thing, well, actually two. It's really funny because I even read the rules and I just misunderstood them. And that's the thing with when you're playing a game solitaire. If you don't understand the rules correctly, you're going to just play it wrong for a long time before you ever figure out that you actually played it wrong. When you start putting it on video so other people can watch, then all of a sudden, bing, 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 the comments start coming in right away. So let's cover those real quick. One of them I would say is a major issue, but it doesn't change the impact of the game so far. So we're still early enough in the game that it doesn't, change anything. The other one does impact the game, and we'll talk about that. So actually, let's do the one that impacts the game. It has to do with the dummy flights. And remember, when you're playing solitaire, you're not supposed to use dummy flights. So the fact that I'm insisting on using them is, my own insanity already. But let's flip to the other camera here. So as you can tell, we have our flight right here. Okay, so that's the Russian. He started here at this little orbit point, and he's heading straight over. We said that we were going to go to this waypoint right there and then eventually come in and take our pictures. So the admin phase, which is the final phase of every round or turn, is when you generate dummies. So the dummies, after you detect them, they actually come back on the board, but only if you can go undetected. And the Russian plane, as you can see, is detected. However, somebody pointed out my other mistake, which is the EWR. My EWR right here, when you're flying at deck level, only has a range of 10. And so this is the 47 column, and then the 57 column is here. That's all the further the range is. I also thought, oh, never mind. So I said it was range 20. I think I used the EWR to detect that Russian plane. So since the Russian plane was not detected, we would flip it over, and then during the admin phase, it would generate two more dummies again. So the two dummies would come out with the question mark side up, and they actually go on the exact same hex location. And you're allowed to, as a player, you're allowed to switch them around. So if the EE one was the real plane last time, you can change it so a different one is the real plane this time. So that's how that round would have ended. We would have had, the dummies would have been back. So that's the first thing. The second one is really just a setup issue, and it's a setup issue that we can easily fix. It won't impact the game in a negative way. But somebody explained to me what the heck this 15 to 17 means. And now that I see it, it makes complete and total sense. But as a new person trying to learn this game, I'm like, what the hell? So first of all, I asked about time. Every turn is something like 1 minute, I think somebody said. So the fact that it's May 12th, 1987, it's going to be May 12th, 1987 when this ends. So this 15th to 17th is not May 15th or 17th. What that is, and the rule book does say it, and even the setup section says it. When you do the ground deployment phase, you're supposed to set up your ground units and consult with Appendix C. But the rules say consult with Appendix C unless the scenario gives you specific locations. Well, I saw this and said, oh yeah, they give me specific locations, so I don't need to go to Appendix C. That was 100% wrong. The 16th Armored Division is, as you might have remembered, is I had one little armor unit like this, and basically I said that that was the 16th Armor Division, this one chit. It doesn't work that way. So let me get out Appendix C, and it'll be like magic bamboozlement. First of all, you're going to see right here, 15th or 17th May 1987, NATO Air Defense, and right there, Belgian Corps, there's the 16th Armor Division. It consists of 3 mechs. Okay, so I don't know what a mech is in this game, so would that be armor? I'm assuming it is. Unless armor is, nope, armor is something else. So it's saying 3 mechs, 2 armor, and 2 artillery. I definitely see the artillery. So let me get the artillery out. So I got 2 artillery. We already have 1 armor on the board, and we have this new armor here. And see, look, there's actual specific locations where they start on the board. So remember when I put that armor near the front line? I don't get to do that. It actually has very specific starting point. And then you can see here we have an HQ and a supply, but that HQ and supply was, that starting location is here, 5404 and 4904, which, by the way, matches perfectly with this. So the fact that it was in the scenario book was just a nice to have. And then the 43rd Battalion, Hoxie, and the 62nd Battalion, Hoxie. You can see here there's 2 Hoxies. But what's crazy is this says 4 times and 2 times. So I don't know what to do with that. So does that mean I actually have 6 of them out there? And that is where I'm hung up again, because the rules don't say. Now, obviously over here, there's 2 Hawk batteries with specific locations, because that's what the Russians need to take a picture of. But do I actually have 6 of them that are out there? And does that mean I get to place them wherever I want? Because there's no actual, oh, actually, no, I take it back. This is the 43rd Battalion and 62nd Battalion. Only the 16th Armored Division is out. So that's the way to interpret this. Oh, sorry, only the 16th Armored Division is out. So the Hawks are part of a battalion unit that was not declared. So we ignore these. We just do the 16th Armor. So I have to find the 3 mech. Oh, and another important thing. Remember we rolled the die to see if they got the Gepard ability, and I said I don't know how to track it? That's what this is. So you just flip it over and see that little circle? That little circle means it has the upgraded anti-air capability. So huge thank you to the viewer that pointed all that out. I would not have figured that out. I think I would have played this for months without figuring that out. So a very big thank you there. So, okay, let me pause this and see if I can find what the 3 mechs are. And I'm assuming it's mechanized infantry, but like I don't know where the tokens are for that. So, oh, I found one right here, actually. There we go. There's a mech. It looks just like, looks very similar to the armor. So it's just buried in here. I need 2 more. There's 1, and here's the last one. So it was all in the same bucket, just buried. Okay, so we got to get those on the board, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to flip to the other camera, and then we'll talk about where all these locations are supposed to be. Okay, so you should be able to see the board here. I'm just trying to move my other camera out of the way so I can lean across the table. This is a very long reach for me to get to this end of the board. Okay. So this armor right here, I arbitrarily put that there, and but there's actual specific locations. So let's start with the armor. 5904 and 5607. So 5904 would be right here. So not too far from where I had it, but that's where he would be. And then 5607 would be the other one, and that would be here. Okay, so that's the 2 armor. The 3 mechanized infantry. So first one is 6203. So here's 62, and 03 would be right at the top here. So this waypoint, we're going to have to do another waypoint. 6106. And then 5908. So that's how that would look. And then 2 artillery, 5703 and 5408. So right next to the Hawk there. Okay, so as you can see, there's a lot more ground units on the ground. And if the Russians fly next to any of these units, they get spotted or detected, or however you want to word it. So we could have, like, for example, the Russians could fly way up here as a rally point and just like sort of fly along the top edge of the map. But even if they do, this one eventually spots them. So like if you're trying to find a way to sneak through, you can sneak through. If you come through the bottom here, you can sneak around this way and then come up and eventually get your picture taken there. But eventually you are going to get spotted. I mean, it's really hard to not get spotted. So that's what's interesting is like I think we'll still fly up along the top there and then just avoid getting spotted for as long as possible. Because if we get spotted here, we're already going to get spotted there. So we're already, you know, 3/4 of the way there. So I think that's what the Russian player will do. But it definitely makes it harder. Now, we rolled for the Gepard check with this one, or this armor right here. But we're going to have to roll for all the other ones to see if they have the Gepard ability. So that's the next thing we're going to do. I'm going to pause it so I can get out the right tables and make sure I do that part correctly. Okay, so in order to do this, we're looking at this table here, this ground unit organic AAA table. And it says there for the armor and mech, we need to roll, remember for the Gepard, die roll of 1 to 3. Okay, and then for the artillery, HQ, supply, etc., the Gepard is a die roll of 1 to 4. And anyways, so let's go ahead and get that going here. So I'm going to start. We rolled for this guy already, so we're going to start with the mech. I'm going to go ahead and just roll here. I rolled a 9. That's not going to be enough. So this mech rolled a 4, which is also not enough. And I know one of the viewers suggested that you wait until they fly over to discover it, largely because, you know, maybe it speeds up the game a little, but it also gives an element of surprise, I guess, to the other players, so they don't know which ones are upgraded. But we're playing by ourselves, so I'm not too concerned. So I think we did 3 of them. So let's do this one here. I rolled a 1. So this armor flips. It has the Gepard capability. This artillery, I rolled a 5. This HQ, I rolled a 2. So the HQ actually has the ability. I don't think the Hawks, no, they don't roll for that kind of stuff. This artillery down here, it flips over. And then this supply actually gets a roll. I rolled a 4 on the supply, which is, that gets the Gepard. So the supply actually has the Gepard. And then this EWR, I think, just automatically has like a, it's called a light AAA. All right, so we have 1, 2, 3, 4 of them that have the Gepard. So that's not bad. Okay. All right, so what do we do next? Well, we're starting turn 2. And so we're basically going back to the top of the order. I think this is going to go a little bit faster because we're not going to be as encumbered with, okay, what do I do here, here, and here? We first do the random event phase, which we didn't do before. We're going to roll 2 dice and check the events. So let's do that. I rolled a 14. So now I got to find the events. Here we go. Found them. So a 14 is direction finding. Roll 1d10 again. If it's a 1 to 5, it's Warsaw. 6 to 10 is NATO. That player chooses one enemy SAM warn marker with its radar and automatically locates it. We don't need to roll this. There's no SAM warning markers on the board. So this is basically just a moot thing. And bear in mind that the scenario book does state that we're supposed to ignore certain random events. So certain ones do get ignored. This was not one of them, but we don't have any SAM warning markers because there's no hidden SAM markers. So there's nothing to see here, folks. We're moving on. Okay, so that part's done. Come back up. We go to the jamming phase. So each player, NATO first, places or adjusts standoff or spotting. Okay, there's nothing to do here. Early warning jamming. Nothing to do there either. So detection phase, and this part we do. So let's get out our detection table. Again, that's this. So let's start with the Russians detecting us. We are currently undetected. And remember, they have an A, so we're going to roll. And I rolled an 11. NATO gets to subtract 2 because we're still flying at deck. So that becomes a 9. And we are in rough. So we get to subtract 4 more. So basically, we were not spotted. I'm not sure how exciting that is because they know where we are, but we weren't spotted this time. Okay, so now we're going to go after their first dummy. We know it's the dummy. So this is us. We rolled a 9. They get to subtract 1, and they are not in a rough, so it becomes an 8, but we don't detect the dummy. Then we go the actual flight. I rolled an 11, which becomes a 10. And so we do detect the actual flight. And then the other dummy is an 8. We don't detect the other dummy. Now, what's I think interesting about these rules are if I detect the actual flight, I know the other 2 are dummies. So I don't know what the point of this is. But the actual flight gets detected. So I'm going to just take off the dummies again. I think if there was a lot more planes, this might have been a little bit more powerful. So we're going to go ahead and take off the 2 dummies, and their flight is detected. Okay, EWR and all that other stuff doesn't happen yet, so we're good to go there. And there's definitely no visual or anything. We're not in range for visual at all. The radar search doesn't happen because neither of the planes are close enough to each other, and the EWR doesn't happen either. So then we go to the movement phase. So we're going to roll, we roll to determine initiative, and this time it is the Americans that have the initiative, and we're going to ask the Soviets to go first. So the Soviets are going to draw a chit. And this is the one they draw. They drew a 0, which in this situation would be a neener for them. And so that means the Americans are going to end up going first. And we get a 1. So if you'll recall, we have our plane pointed towards them. And so we would have to do one of those things where we're spending a movement point to turn 90 degrees, then we're going to move, and then just turn again. So we're facing that way. We can't leave the orbit point. That's the issue. And we were facing this way, so, I'm sorry, this way. So we're going to turn, what is that? That's 60 degrees, actually. Then we're going to move and turn 60 degrees again. That uses multiple movement points, but there's no rules being violated here. And we're still at the deck. Now, however, though, we're not in the rough anymore. So that's going to make it harder for us to spot. And let's look at our movement rules. We can turn 90 degrees if we only use 2 movement points. So that would be a really difficult thing to do. That's a free turn. You're allowed to do a max turn in altitude band of 180 degrees if you only move 2 movement points. So let's think about this. So we were here. I have to move somewhere. So I'm going to turn 60 degrees and move 1 space. Okay, that's 1 movement. And with a 60-degree free move, I can do that if I'm moving 3 to 4 movement points total. Okay, I'm allowed to do that as a free move. So then I can spend a movement point just to turn. So I'm going to turn 120 degrees. So this is 60, this is 120. And then we're going to do a free movement of 60 and move again. So that would be 3 movement points. And then for the 4th one, we can turn 120 again, like that. So that would be 4 movement points without having to we're not, using any afterburner. That's within our movement points, etc. So let's flip the camera here. How did I just pull that off? Well, this is what I was referring to. The turntable, if you're moving 3 to 4 movement points for each day during the daytime, you're allowed to turn 60 degrees. But that you do have to move, though. So you have to move a hex to be able to do that, or you have to climb, or you can ascend or descend. Because that's also something you can do. You can climb an altitude band for 1 movement point, and you stay in your hex. What you're not allowed to do is climb up and then go back down. It says that right here. You may climb or dive more than once in the same hex, but may not expend movement points to climb and dive in the same hex. So we have to be careful, because we could have climbed and then just actually called it a day, right? But then, we're going to be easier to detect, blah, blah, blah. So we're going to stay at the deck level, and so what we did was we did a move, and then on entering a hex, we did a free turn up to 60 degrees. Okay, so that's what we did. And then for our second movement, we did the max turn of 120 degrees. So that was a full movement point. We used a turn action. So we turned up to the flight's maximum value, and then we were allowed to freely descend if we wanted, but we didn't do that. We're at the deck level. So then we moved again and used a free turn. So that was movement number 3. And then movement number 4 is we did a 120-degree turn. So I know it sounds so confusing. All of this was necessary just so we don't violate the rule of we have to be within 1x of the orbit. But basically, we're just zigzagging in the air. And again, we're not spending any fuel doing this. So now the Russians get to go. And just as a reminder, they're at the deck. And the Russians do have the TFR, which means they're allowed to go along the mountains at the deck. And they only have a movement of 4. We can turn it up to a 5, but that burns fuel. We don't need to do that yet. Let's just do 4. And then this here is maneuverability. I have to look that up a little bit more, but you get to do 5, and then you get 4 extra maneuver points. I gotta look up what that means, but we do get 4 movement points. So if we come up here. We're gonna go 1, 2, turn 30 degrees, 3, 4. Okay, so we're heading up. We still haven't even crossed the line. I mean, all of this after just 2 turns. Okay. Next is the fuel phase. And like I said, we don't do anything with the fuel phase because nobody used the dash or engaged in air-to-air combat. There is no SAM location. And next we do is the tracking phase. All detected NATO flights at deck in rough terrain, which is not us, but we weren't detected. That's right, we weren't detected this time. And then all flights in adjacent mountain terrain. The Russians are in rough, but they're not in a mountain. They automatically become, then both players roll in the track to determine what becomes undetected. So let's roll for the Russians. And I rolled a 9. Okay, so the table is this one right here, player A2. And a 9 is right here. And we're at detection level A, so 9A is spades. If they're spades, then they get to go back to undetected. So let's go check to see what they are. And you can see here, they're diamonds. So the Russian stays detected. So that means no dummies for you during the admin phase. And speaking of which, we're on the SAM acquisition phase, which I believe doesn't happen until they have to cross the front line in order for SAM acquisition to occur. I remember there's a rule for that, so let me just make sure it's the SAM acquisition 1522. Each SAM can only acquire 1 target at a time. Target must be within acquisition range, and it must not be masked by terrain. Being masked by terrain is if a flight enters rough or mountain hex at deck altitude, the acquisition marker is removed before any SAM attack can be made. Just diving to deck altitude in a rough mountain hex does not remove the acquisition marker. The flight must move while already at deck altitude to do so. So because he's at deck, the SAM acquisition can't happen. If the target is at deck at any time and there is a mountain hex between the SAM and the flight, remove the marker. So that's an important thing to remember. So we could try to acquire, but I think also the SAM has to be within range, and the range is 13, so I don't think we're quite there yet. So we're not in the range where the SAM could even acquire him anyways. The LOAL does mean something. SAM units have to require their target flight on radar. Exception is LOAL. So LOAL allows them to ignore that. 15 point. Boy, there's so much to this. Okay, so I think at the end of the day, the Russian plane, because it's flying at deck level and it's in the rough terrain, it's way too difficult for the SAM to acquire it. So I'm going to call this phase over. I will look at the rules in between videos here to see if I didn't miss something on this, but I'm pretty sure. Actually, let me pause. I'll do that check right now. Okay, I did interpret it correctly. So this is where flying at the deck altitude makes life really difficult for everybody. The British, by the way, can't do that all the times because they don't have the TFR like the Russians do. The TFR allows the British to move at the deck level. I'm sorry, it allows the Russians to move at the deck level, but the British have to worry about the deck level quite a bit more. So that's something that it's all part of the movement actions here, and I think it's buried a little further in here. Got air-to-air, maneuver table. Okay, I think I have to look, unfortunately, I have to look in the rule book to see that rule. Because you have to do, we just did this yesterday, but that's what the problem of a day of going to work and forgetting the rules does to you. 1 second. Yeah, so the TFR thing is just something we have to worry about when we get to mountain hexes. So the British don't have to worry about anything at the moment. So where are we at? We're at 31 minutes. That's round 2, or turn 2. So nothing really exciting happened there. We had some detection of the Russians. We remained undetected. The Russians did not go undetected, so we know there's one coming towards the front line, and it moved a whopping 4 spaces, and that's it. So obviously, without stepping through these, so with the minuscule detail that I'm doing, you could really get through these turns quick, especially if you understand the rules really well. So my apologies if this is taking longer than you would like, but for the purposes of learning, and if you're just purchased your copy of this game, I personally think that going this slow would be helpful. Somebody did link a video of somebody playing this exact mission, and that guy flew through the scenario so fast, you had no idea what he was doing. I mean, he clearly knew what he was doing, but I had no idea what he was doing because I've never played the game before. So that's one of the reasons why I wanted to do a video for this. Anyways, I'm not going to ramble too much. I'm just going to end the video here, and we will see you on turn 3. As always, stay awesome.